Well, former President Barack Obama had this to say about President Trump's decision to pull the U.S. out of the Iran deal. Quote, leaving the agreement could embolden an already dangerous regime, threaten our friends with destruction, pose unacceptable dangers to America's own security, and trigger an arms race in the world's most dangerous region. Let's get reaction from Republican Congressman and veteran from Florida, Brian Mast, who is on the House Foreign Relations Committee, among other things. Good to have you with us tonight.
It's always good to be back.
What do you make of what President Obama had to say? He laid out some specific worries that he has about withdrawing from this deal.
I think they were just flat out wrong. I mean, you look at the last 8 years, the previous administration, it's like they suffered from some Chamberlain syndrome where if they could ignore or appease our enemies enough that somehow our enemies would disappear or go away. And that's simply not the truth. And after that, they were emboldened. You saw the Iranian Revolutionary Guard being on the banks of Israel there. You see what they've done in Yemen with attacking our Navy vessels, with taking our sailors hostage. You've seen the things that have gone on since then. They've become more emboldened.
What do you make of this? Because I know that you, in your time in the Army, among other things, you're a bomb tech, but you also were trained with regard to nuclear weaponry.
That's right.
So what do you make of what the Obama administration says and what former Secretary of State John Kerry has been out saying? This put guardrails on them, this stopped them from moving forward, and taking away the deal takes away those protections.
That's not the reality of the situation. They needed three things to develop a nuclear weapon. They needed the material to do it. They needed a delivery system, an ICBM or whatever delivery system to deliver to wherever they wanted, and they needed the money to do it. People should ask themselves, why is it that this is technology that the United States of America was able to develop in the 1940s? The delivery systems by the 50s and 60s, and Iran still hasn't developed it to this day. They haven't had the materials that they needed. They haven't had the technology that they've needed. They haven't had the money that they needed to go out there and develop these systems. We loosened the restrictions on them to develop those delivery systems, those ballistic missile systems. We allowed them access to the world stage in terms of being able to go out there and sell their oil on the world stage. We've allowed them to colonize the Middle East and exploit the resources throughout the region. We're giving them all the tools that they need. And now the last piece that we've given to them was all they have to do is wait out enough time, and they're going to have all the fissile material they need to go out there and put it on the end of a warhead.
Well, and today, reaction from Iranian President Rouhani saying this. He's quoted as saying this on state television there, saying that he had ordered Iran's Atomic Energy Organization to prepare for unlimited uranium enrichment in the event that the government decides to withdraw from the pact. Because they say, listen, the Europeans are still part of this. We have other countries. We're not leaving the pact. But if we decide to, we're ready to fire this stuff right back up.
Well, that's what we've known from the very beginning. That's what all the information that Prime Minister Netanyahu put out there, that the Iranians were cheating from the very beginning. They weren't an honest broker when they were negotiating this with Kerry. They weren't upfront about what their true intentions were with the nuclear program. That's everything that was put out there in that information that President Trump was referencing. So we know they're ready to fire this program up, and they were ready to cheat on the program while they weren't letting IAEA inspectors into their facilities that were on military bases. That we know that's where they were probably going to be developing these systems.
You know, many of our European allies have urged the president to stay as a part of this deal, try to better it from being still engaged with it. Emmanuel Macron's tweet today says France, Germany, and the UK regret the U.S. decision to leave the JCPOA, this agreement. The nuclear non-proliferation regime is at stake. What does this do for our relationship with our allies now?
Look, it makes it a little bit more tenuous. I don't think that anybody should deny that, but we have to be able to come to a realization that you don't make peace with your enemies. You negotiate peace with former enemies, and Iran is not any kind of former enemy. We shouldn't have been making that kind of negotiation with a nation that's willing to go out there and attack our service members on the battlefield. They were the ones that were out there in placing improvised explosive devices, lacing them with nuts and screws and bolts so that they could put holes in U.S. service members. They were the ones that were out there giving the technology to the Iraqis on explosively formed projectiles and weaponry that could rip through our up-armor Humvees. They are the ones that were out there being the aggressors. They were not a former enemy, and we shouldn't have been trying to negotiate with them.
Well, you know firsthand, and we thank you for your service in the Army and now on Capitol Hill as well. Great to see you again tonight,
Good to see you, too.